Should have, yeah. Should have
Go live anyway.
Hello,
Is
guys.
that what it actually says? Go live.
It just
anyway?
said, yeah, we are actually live now, I think. So,
Yeah.
I believe so.
Oh, Jesus.
So real smooth entry there, guys. But I am in Machu Picchu, so the signal's a bit funny.
You want to explain that a bit more, or like why, or?
There's no reason for it this time. I'm just trying to find a way of not showing everyone my bedroom. That is really the reality of what it is. And it was going to be a football themed background again because Man United were doing so well until yesterday. So I just thought, well, what makes me happy? Machu Picchu makes me happy. So
have you been?
No, and I'd like, but the looks of it, I like. Do you know what? I like the idea of living on a steep hill like that.
So
mountain,
like a goat.
Like a goat.
That's what you're saying, like a goat.
Like
pretty much.
Yeah. So I don't know why, but I look at it and think, oh, isn't that lovely? Isn't that just lovely? But yeah, we had an idea at the beginning of this that we do as background every week, and that I just forgot to tell you what a theme was because I forgot to think about it. Got to the day and went, oh no, I forgot.
It was a bit too late.
Yeah, I know. You had Mordor, didn't you, Simon, for the first one?
Yeah, I had Mordor. I think because we just had no theme. It was just basically pick something that you want, and the Fires of Mordor was suitable for the theme.
Yeah, you had your just generic mates Zoom background, didn't you, Jack, at the time of the first one?
Yeah, it's the scene, in the office where they do like little scenes. It was
interview,
that. Yeah. Just because it was already on my computer.
Yeah. That is actually excellent, though. I wish I'd done that because I'm a big Office fan, so I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Just never watch it, ever. Never watched it.
You don't like it, do you? You've had your haircut.
Really?
Oh.
Because I saw it on Sunday.
Dicey.
We had to meet. Right, so we should probably do this, shouldn't we?
Yeah, why not?
Probably. I think so.
Simon, I'll hand over to you as the host today.
Welcome, guys. This is the podcast, the Simon Podcast. Simon Podcast. Today we have George and Jack attending my famous show. We might have some more surprise guests as well. We just don't know. It's fully packed. We're going to just talk about programming for fat loss again, because there's a few things that I want to sort of get out there for people, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that people want to hear as well. And we didn't have Jack obviously coming in with his extreme knowledge.
With his bombs.
His well-researched bombs.
Yeah.
Even though most of me gets on Wikipedia, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd make it up.
Yeah, so do I, man. I get them from Color-In books.
Yeah.
So.
Never been qualified. Just put the top on where you work and then just walk in and people seem to accept it.
It's amazing how people believe.
You usually go into the interview with a set of dumbbells in your hand. That always works, I think.
Just that confident people are like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
This is cool, yeah.
But I want to start off with a question I formulated today is, what is the most important lift or lifts when it comes to fat loss? What would you guys say is the most important lifts that you could do in the gym when it comes to fat loss?
Specific exercises, you mean?
Specific exercises, order of exercises, type of lifts, single joint, multi-joints.
So if we're speaking about specific lifts, for me, the best bang for your buck are going to be the compound lifts, so the multi-joint lifts. Yeah. So your bigger exercises. So if it's appropriate, your deadlifts, squats, your big pushes, so overhead press, horizontal pressing, and then big rows.
Big rows.
Yeah, big rows. Yeah. Those movements where multi-joint, you're going to get the most bang for your buck out of those movements. If you're short on time or you're unsure what to do, what exercises to do, hit those and then, solid.
And where would you put them in terms of programming? Because you're always going to do, there might be some simple exercises or exercises for rehab-y type purposes and so on. Yeah,
well, you can do it. You can do it however you want, really. Like traditionally, if you read like a classic training textbook, they'll go at the beginning. You'll do your prep work and they'll be the first exercise you do and you sort of work your way down. But for me, you can put them at the end. And it's almost like you reverse sequence the session. And for people, especially when you get older, jumping, even if you do a small warm-up or a big warm-up, jumping straight into a big movement like a bench press or deadlift, it can still be quite a task and you can feel stiff and it's not fully ready. Whereas if you chuck it at the end and just reverse sequence the whole session, you can just get way more bang for your buck out of it. So for a lot of my clients that, they got like achy joints, they're a bit older, doing their prep work, then building up into that exercise at the end actually works better. So for example, if you take a deadlift, you can do all your specific stuff they need to do at the beginning, but then prep the rest of the session that works into their deadlift. So do some isolated hamstring work, get their hamstrings really pumped full of blood, ready. Same with like a hip thrust, glutes are going, everything's working in that, then deadlift. So then when they're doing the deadlifts, everything that they need to be pumped, ready, they feel good, they've loosened up more, they're even more warm than they would be after even a 15-minute warm up. Then they just put that, for most people, you're probably in a better place to deadlift and do the bigger movements that way.
So what about you, Jorg?
So very similar. So I'd focus on the big moves, and it very much depends on the training age of the person in front of me. If he or she is brand new to the gym, then I might give them a lot of rest, do a big exercise like a squat, give them about 60 seconds, and then do a big row exercise, so a bench row or something like that, single arm row. And then over the weeks, as they get better, you might do it with less rest. So instead of 60 seconds between A1 and A2, first two exercises, I should say. So 60 seconds squat, 60 seconds, row, 60 seconds, then back to squat. I might do squat, then row as more of a pure superset. With the rest at the end. So as the weeks go on, I make it just slightly more difficult. I haven't done I haven't done it the other way around, Jack, I have to say, and it's quite interesting really to think of that way, because you're right. So many people take 4, 5, and once they get to the fourth set, it looks their best set quite often, doesn't it? And just as they're starting to ramp up and get the best out of the movement, we've done the set of squats, and we potentially haven't got the most out of it. So that's something I think I should.
It's also going back to like when we were with John Meadows there, George. He wasn't a big fan of doing your heavy first. So he always put the big bang for your buck, if you like, exercise, the biggest multi-joint compound exercise, second in the workout, and he would spend the first part of that workout warming it up. So it's not, he wouldn't. So I'm assuming, Jack, that you're not going for failure on like the hip thrust or the hamstring curls on the things like the deadlift, but you're still doing working sets where you're getting good numbers in there. You're still working efficiently, but you're leaving so everything's primed up, and that's what he would do. So then you go into like the deadlift, or if it's bench press, you do dumbbell presses before you do barbell, and the pecs are fired, the triceps are fired, the shoulders or the hamstrings, the glutes, the lower back, and then the movement is a lot smoother. Everything's active. I like that. I do like that. It's something I have done it myself, and I have done it with a few clients, but it 100%, I think, anyway, 100% right, especially post 40. People are got joint issues. Sometimes you just got sore tendons, elbows, shoulders, you get knees, and they just need a bit of priming. And that's the perfect time to get loads of blood in there, get it all loose, and then hit it with a big exercise, because you're not going to lose anything. I think it's more of if you're a strength training athlete, that the compound move comes first is the important thing, because you're worried about nervous system and all that sort of stuff. Would you not say? Yeah.
Again, traditionally, you would normally do it at the beginning, or you can do it at the beginning, but then there's also the theory that you need to be able to produce your most work and best work in the last few minutes of the game. So there is the argument with some coaches where, like the classic, like in the fourth quarter, you've got to be able to produce the same as what you were at the first. So why not sometimes have your bigger, faster exercises where traditionally, you would put them at the beginning because you're freshest.
Safer than end, or safer.
It's like you're freshest, you're safer, you can put the most energy into those. But then you could argue, well, you need to do that in the 98th minute of the game. So you can argue that you could put it at the end as well. But traditionally you do them at the start.
And also, just going on that, why is it that we use the multi-joint compound exercises over the isolated exercises, single joint movements?
Well, for fat loss.
Exactly. Yeah, fat loss. Yeah.
Well, like Jack was talking about, getting more bang for your buck out of them. You can burn much more energy doing those exercises. You'd have to do quite a lot more sets potentially with the more isolated stuff. Yeah. But they are more demanding though. So there's sometimes I do. Again, it depending on the person in front of me. Sometimes they can't really do the multi-joint exercises very well. That's why I like Jack's what Jack was saying about putting them later on in the set. Because I spend maybe 3-6 weeks with some new clients doing more of the isolated work.
But you would say like a split squat's a multi-joint exercise? It's
I would
single leg, so it's knee and hip is moving, so it's more than just doing a leg extension,
Yeah, I mean, I would I'm thinking more of kind of like the hip extension work. So I do more kind of glute bridges, glute bridges. I usually, if someone is at the point where they can't really squat, I tend to get them to step up first, which still counts, right? It's still multi-joint, so it's but yeah, which I suppose the right answer is split squat's the worst, man. I suppose it's down regulating what that multi-joint movement is. So that's
Yeah. And what about you, Jack? For me, it comes down to there's two reasons really that personally I would use something like a multi-joint exercise, and why I would put it higher up on the list. We burn more calories. It's just a fact in it. So if you're doing a bicep curl, or let's say you're doing a tricep extension, you're only working your tricep muscle, which is that part of your arm. Whereas if you do a bench press or a shoulder press, you're working your pec, you're working your shoulder, you're working your tricep. You're hitting 3 muscle groups all at one time, so you're going to be burning a lot more energy, the same as doing a squat versus a leg extension. You've got all sorts of muscles going on in a squat. Everything's trying to stabilize, even to the point where your shoulders are working, your traps are working, your lats are working. So you're getting more energy burn per time instead of wasting lots of rest time and so on doing single joints. But then also, like you said, Jack, traditionally it's safer. We're going for that safe option of doing the hard exercises first when they're fresh, and then tapering it down as they fatigue then.
Yeah,
you definitely just wanted to show your tricep off then, Simon. Did you know
that? That's probably the worst.
Just that one, just there.
That's the worst angle ever. Hey, everybody.
Sorry, Jack. I once again interrupted.
No, it's like, so for me, the why I would use them, yes, there's that reason, but that's probably second reason I would use them, because like when we discussed what the topic was going to be today, it's like, how do you program for fat loss? And my answer in my head was, I don't.
Yeah, that's
I don't program for weight loss, for fat loss. I program one for what the person actually needs in terms of how they move and what I base off their assessment. Second, to get them stronger. So that's why I would use the multi-joint exercises, because in terms of getting stronger, that's how you're going to get stronger. I mean, you can get stronger through a tricep extension, but like you say, you're going to get stronger in that movement and in your tricep. Whereas if you're doing something like a horizontal push, you're going to get you're still going to work your tricep, but 2, you're getting stronger in that whole movement pattern. So that's why I would use the multi-joint exercises.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think that is, because these things are carryovers. Squats are carryovers. Even your bench press is a carryover. I mean, we all push doors open. We all have to push things in our life. At some point, you're going to have to budge something. So,
I have to be careful not to push them off their hinges, really, when I open doors.
Yeah, no, that's it. Really I think I once see you open a door to a house and nearly take the whole front wall down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just once I opened the door and I did it so quickly that the whole house moved towards me. So
wow,
it's just man, dude. It's like you really need to get that checked out.
I know. So so going. I'm glad you made that point, Jack, because last week we both mentioned, Simon, didn't we, that when we're in the actual gym, we're not thinking about fat loss there. Yeah. In those gym-based strength sessions, we're not really thinking about fat loss. Would we still include the multi-joint exercises because of it? Yeah, of course. But you've got to remember what the purpose of the gym is, and that was a really good point there that Jack made, was that we're talking about getting your joints, muscles nice and strong, joints stable, correcting any weaknesses that might be there and making you stronger, basically building more muscle. So that's so that's something you should take home, guys. It's not that bit that's going to make a great deal of difference. It's the
like all them exercises. Sorry, Jack. All them exercises are things that we need to be doing for the rest of our life. Like, you know, I can't even stress the importance of you have two different 70-year-olds in this world. You have a 70-year-old who has not stopped moving in life, you know, doing his own thing. He's still active. He's still out walking. He's still lifting and moving things, and is in great condition and has a really high quality of life. And then you have the 70-year-old who's retired and then has spent their time sitting down in front of the TV, eating food, not moving, losing muscle faster than you can imagine, and then struggles to walk around because they have no longer a support system to even do it. You find it difficult to walk. That shouldn't be a thing unless you've got some serious problems, and that's the difference with resistance training. And what we were trying to say here is the movement patterns is it should be there and it should be forever, and that's what they're trying to build.
Yeah, 100%.
We know, I'm sure we all know clients that are like in, you know, Julian Powell's probably a classic example. He's 84 now, I would say. 83, 84. 84, doing chin-ups, walking lunges, hip thrusts, RDLs, you know what I mean? And
what easily as well.
Yeah, easy. Both hips replaced, and he was squatting 8 weeks after. Only body weight squats, but he was squatting, nevertheless. And then he's had his knee replaced and still continues through, and nothing stopped that man, and he moves really well, and that's where you want to be, and that's why we resistance train.
My stepdad's a really good example, because he's never been in a gym in his life, but he's always had a really active job that requires, you know, picking things up, carrying them. So you're thinking naturally squatting, naturally loaded carries, pushing things onto stuff and all that sort of thing. So, and you know, he's in his 70s and he's real strong. You know, he doesn't need any help walking. He's still, you know, probably stronger than me, but in fairness, that's not that hard. So, you know.
But that's what we want, isn't it? We want to be able to do all these things forever. There's no such point as where you want to stop, because as soon as you stop, then that's when you do age. But going on there, so I just wanted to tip on, like, how would you guys manipulate workouts for fat loss if that's what you were going for? So you have somebody who they're on a 10-week, 12-week schedule. They really want to lose fat, and fat loss is the only priority here. It's not like getting stronger and everything else, even though that's going to come off it. What would you do with your training, your volume, your rest, and that type of thing with your workouts to manipulate it for somebody in let's say a 12-week phase?
Shall I go? Shall I go first?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Typically what I do, if it's purely fat loss, I'd probably take the strength stuff down from 3 a week to 2. And then from there, I might get them away from all the stuff outside of the gym. I might program, I wouldn't actually be that different, to be honest. I might just get some volume up there. Maybe at one day they'll do a cardio-based session where it starts off quite light. Should we take a bike for an example? They might do a steady cycle on their bike on their own within the gym. And then I might get them to just increase the distance for the 3rd week. Or if they've been training for a while and they're pretty fit anyway, I might get them to, by the 3rd week, just add some interval work, just for some variation more than anything else. But with that, then after the 3rd or 4th week, I'd maybe pull it back and then rebuild again. That's for one of the cardio sessions. Would I do that much HIIT work? Probably not. Within their training sessions, though, I wouldn't change it that much. I'd do, I don't know, maybe nothing under 8 reps on anything. I wouldn't go into the strength phases. So maybe start their first phase on 8 to 10 reps worth of reps on whatever it might be. And then over the weeks, I'll build the volume up. Partly because I want them to, you know, there's a psychological effect, right? You know, we're increasing their endurance by doing that. We're also creating more calorie output. but not so much that I think it's going to make a massive difference. But to a psychological effect, if you've done 20 reps for 3 sets instead of 8, they might just feel like you're pushing them towards the right direction there. Whereas if someone was, focused more on performance and strength, I might take it from 10 down the chain over the weeks, if you know what I mean. So that's kind of the only difference, but the program would be quite similar there. But just bear in mind, when I say 10 to 8 to 10 reps, that's usually for the first big movement. Okay. It might just then be 10 on the second set of exercises, 10 to 12. And for the single or the isolated work, if you want to call it that, I might push even on the first phase that right up, because we know that's not quite as demanding on the body. So I might, let's say if they're doing some arms, we might push that up to 15, 20 reps, even if you've done a bench press for 8 in the first. So that's kind of what I do. I'd start first few weeks.
Generally, that's the better way to go in it. Do the heavier load at the start with the lower reps, and then everything from that point down will be higher then, because as you're fatiguing, there's less stress on the nervous system. You can work more on the muscles and especially in the lactic threshold and so on then.
I probably wouldn't go anything over 20 reps I just don't feel like it's necessary when you get to like 34. The load is so light at that point. I just don't really feel like it's. I know that Meadows does the stuff with the partial reps and stuff like that, but I think we're talking
heavy.
about
that's heavy from the
still heavy.
Different.
We're talking about a different thing there. So
completely.
That I probably wouldn't, just because I think it gets a bit little boring as well once 40.
It gets boring mainly
raises.
just by counting it. Yeah, I've done that. I can never remember it because there's EDT, isn't there, which is escalating density training.
Yeah.
And then there was another one done by a Welsh guy then. Which is it's probably DDP or some sort of density something training escalating, and it basically is like 50 40 30 20 10 20 30 40 50 on one exercise. So you could be like lateral raises or something like that.
Just wreck you.
I know. Yeah, it's a really good way to get RSI fast.
Yeah. So and as they progress, I think I might add some some sprint stuff, but not for very long. But like I said last week, I would lay the focus more on a lot on what's going on outside of the gym. And
of course, nutrition is going to be like a key point and all that. What about you, Jack, and that all? Oh, sorry.
No, do you have anything to add, George? Or are you good?
I was just going to say, like, the only reason I program the sessions like that, because I want them to. I want them to feel like I'm listening to them, and I'm listening to what they want. And so often with fat loss, we get people who want to feel like they're working pretty hard in a workout and sweating a little bit. So I want to like tick that box, but at the same time, I'm still, like Jack said, doing the things they need within the sessions, kind of covertly,
Yeah.
COVID.
Covidly. Sorry, Jack. Sorry.
No, you're good. What I would do personally, probably people are sick of hearing the phrase "it depends," but it would depend on the number of times I could see them and how I'd do it. And so,
let's say 3 times a week.
So if it was 3 times a week, yes, I'll give 2 versions. So if it was like 3 times a week, I personally would still stick with 70% of the session, 80% of the session being strength work.
Yeah.
So a little bit of strength and hypertrophy. So the reps probably for me wouldn't go above 12.
Yeah.
Just to get that maximal tension in there, because that's why I feel you're going to get the most bang for your buck. And then if it was 3 times a week, where the other days were rest days, then I would include some conditioning.
Yeah.
Such as. So for that, it would be not like doing like not burpees or like throwing your body around with like the ropes and all that stuff. So I would probably put in things like, again, they'll get the most bang for your buck. So something like a prowler push, and you can either do that at the beginning or at the end, something like that. Sled carries just in general.
Carries are very underrated in terms of how hard they are.
Exactly, yeah. So things like that where you can get a bit of conditioning in, and so that's how I would structure the session. So probably I would, which I like to do anyway, because we've mentioned it before earlier, as you get older, you lose power, you lose muscle mass. It's all going to happen. So you can do as much as you can to prevent that. So the first section, work on some power stuff, some simple ball throws, rotation throws, slams, something like that, but not doing slams where you do them for a minute.
Yeah, a minute at like
that.
8,000
Like,
of reps and
exactly, like 5 slams, like 3 sets of 5 slams where you just focus on the power, so you prime their CNS, then some strength work. Then maybe like a tiny little hypertrophy section with some still bigger movements, but where you can just focus more on probably that 8 to 12 rep range.
So it sounds like you're like half an hour in by the time you get to that hypertrophy.
And then the last 20 minutes max some conditioning. If it was like 3 times a week, that's the way I would structure it. So then you're ticking all the boxes. But if, say, the person's super into it and it's like 5 times a week, 6 times a week, I would do it differently, where I would follow almost like a high-low system. So I would go high on their strength days, so power and strength, with probably maybe a little bit of hypertrophy in there as well. But then on the low days, I would do their conditioning. So, and for that, it definitely would be where I would do it in a way that's fun. So I would still want them just to hit their aerobic zone, just because then it would work with their strength work if they're strength training 3-4 times a week. So like their heart rate wouldn't really go above 70%, 75%, but it wouldn't be, oh, you're going to sit on a bike for the next 40 minutes. It would be doing exercises, body weight, low weight.
£80 an hour for that.
Exactly, yeah. So it would still be exercises they do, but body weight, but then the challenge of keeping their heart rate in that zone. So I've programmed it before, where they'll do, say, a minute of an exercise. So like walking lunges, body weight, a minute. And then they move to another exercise where maybe they do sit on a bike for a minute, or just like a mini circuit that they repeat, but keeping their heart rate in that zone. Just because then it's not going to affect their strength work. Whereas if you try to do the classic style where you do your strength work one day and then try and do some HIIT work on the other day, you're just going to mess yourself over for the rest of the week.
You're going to flatten them, aren't you?
Which is going to negatively impact what you want to get out of it. So that's the way I would do it. So if it was 3 times a week, get a bit of everything in the session, but done smartly. But then if it's longer across the week, again, tick all the boxes, but you can do it a little bit smarter.
And also, just to back up on that then as well. So 3 times a week, are we talking split body parts, or are we doing full body sessions in there?
If it's 3, it's probably the max I would do per week, where I kept it a full body. Because that's hard. It's hard to program.
You could even do, but even like, I mean, like full body in terms of like, you could be, you know, let's say back, quads, rear delts, that type of thing, you know, upper back and so on in a session. And then a mid session could be chest, shoulder, like middle delts,
you could
hamstrings and stuff like that. So you end up like, essentially you're working the full body, but you're working body parts, aren't you? Hip extensors and knee flexors. Like, and
I would probably still stick to full. If it was 3 times a week, I'd still do full body, but I would do something like where the Monday, say it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, just for ease. The Monday where they would still hit all the fundamental movement patterns, but the Monday would be one of their main movements would be a squat, and then on the Friday they could still do all the same movements, but I'd probably stick it to unilateral. So then you get that undulation in terms of the loading that they would have, where they're still going to be working hard, because single still hard, so they still have the weight, but on their body the weight isn't going to be as much. It's not as taxing,
demanding.
Exactly. Like, and then the Friday they could deadlift, so we go back to double limb exercises, and we'll just vary the push exercise. So maybe on the Monday it's a horizontal push, the Friday it's a vertical push, whatever.
I really like that, Jack. I use that myself with when I'm actually trying to build a muscle group up, like an area up. So for example, you could, with a squat day or front of the legs day, where I do a squat, and
which is the technical term.
Front of the leg day. So I do it. I am very technical. So I do maybe a squat with like the split squats and various other things, but I'd maybe add an RDL or something to the end of that. And then on the day where I do heavier RDLs or deadlift, with the leg curls and all the other hamstring stuff, I might add a step up or a split squat. So I'm still hitting quads.
But the volume's still going to be there, isn't it? So if you did two quad exercises on the Monday, one on a Tuesday or on the Wednesday, and then one on the, you know what I mean? It's still a lot of legs you've got on there. But would you tell me this though? Would you change the volume week 1 to week 12? What would be the difference between week 1 workout, week 12 workout?
To either?
Both
I would, like I said, I would bring it up every 3 or 4 weeks and then pull it back down 3 or 4 weeks, pull it back down. So let's say I'm doing a 3-week cycle.
Yeah.
I might bring it up for the 3rd week so it feels like they're really peaking on that way and they're working really hard, and then I'll put it down so they don't feel like each session's getting rougher and rougher, and psychologically I'm beating them up as well. But again, if it was completely up to me, I'd probably do more Jack's approach where I don't go above 12 reps.
Yeah.
Like the reason I do is because I like to tick a psychological box over the weeks where they feel like they're really, really getting that, a lot of burnout of the workout. And because it's quite high volume and, a lot of reps, I pull it back because I don't want to keep doing that, because I don't think they'll start to recover badly from it after a while. So that's why I pull it back. So I'm ticking their box, but actually I'm also keeping the integrity of the workout where I want it.
What about you, Jack?
Probably not huge dramatically. Like there maybe could be an argument where maybe the volume of the resistance stuff comes down a little bit and you could increase the conditioning a little bit. But probably not too dramatically.
Yeah. See, I would my approach would be slightly different, I reckon, from both of you. Like I would go ham sandwich. I'm going full in there with the coat saw and everything on there. I'm going like build them up, obviously working on imbalances, working on everything, because you can't, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're just going in there to trash somebody and you want only pure fat loss, you may as well just get them to do as many exercises as possible inside 1 hour and just blast them. So still training that. But I think as my time goes on, I would still have a phase where I'm bringing the reps down. I would start off medium high. I'd start off with like medium high reps, so 12, probably 15, depending, only in selected exercises to try and get energy burn there, try and get them in that endurance phase, get them to get some volume under their belt, pull it down in the next phase then, so I can start ramping up. The exercises may not even change, but I'm just ramping up the intensity, getting some quality movements, and then near the end, I would ramp it up again and cut the rest down. And the only reason I would do that, and the only reason would be purely for volume and energy burn. That would be it. If it is something that's like we get 12 weeks and that's it, I won't see you ever again, I want that result at the end, I'm going to burn some volume in there, because I need, and that volume might be, the first half of the session might be all resistance training, and it could be again something like an upper body, lower body split, as in like exercise selection, but the rest period is going down. It's dropping down. I may even drop like compound lifts if I don't feel that the person's ready for them, and keep the single legs, which is good. But it's going to be a horrible session. You all know that. If you did 15 reps on a walk and lunge straight in the 15 reps on a lat pull down, close grip pull down, or a row, and you give them 30 seconds rest, it's not going to be long before somebody hits you a lot.
Mate, or a press up, man, for
or press up, any of that.
Just anything.
Yeah, exactly that. And then as that time goes along, so I definitely do the conditioning stuff that Jack was saying. I'd be focusing on things like carries and prowlers if you got them and stuff. And with those, I'd be gentle at the start. There would be longer bouts on things like the prowler. We have a longer bit of rest, and then as that time comes near the end of the 12, you're getting a 1-to-1 rest ratio. I'm not looking for huge power, but I am looking to finish the session under huge volume then. And again, I'm only purely thinking about trying to get as much energy burn.
So you're looking at someone here in the 12 weeks that's trying to get as much fat loss as they can. Is that what you're saying there?
Yeah. I just, people work on timelines. It's just, I just wanted to see what people would think, because no approach is wrong. All approaches are right, because behind it all is the nutrition. And behind the nutrition is steady state movement, and beyond that, because you can't train 3 hours a week and expect to have incredible results in 12 weeks. It's just impossible. You need to be doing 3 hours plus 3 hours of cardio somewhere else. You know what I mean? It has to be, or possibly more if you want the 12 weeks. This is what people don't see when they look at these transformations online. They see the 12 weeks and think, oh my God, that's amazing. Then guys try to train 3 times a week. Yeah, but they were doing 20,000 steps for 12 weeks. You know, them guys didn't lay off the pavement. They were constantly going, and that's what people just don't tend to see. But pure fat loss, I would suck that volume in as we go up near the end then.
Can I just, I'll make just a couple of points there about what you said, Simon. So for anyone who's watching who doesn't have a coach and is training on their own, building yourself up to the type of training that Simon's talking about there, where you do take very little rest, it's a great idea because, you know, everyone who has a busy life, you know, you might have a window of half an hour to train every day, do you know what I mean, or 3 times a week because of your lives. If you can build yourself up to something like that, where you can take short rests and get a lot of work out of it, you know, it can prove really useful. You know, if that is indeed the only goal that you're looking for is fat loss. So it's really good. I do stuff like that, but you've probably noticed within the gym when we're training, it's usually like probably 3 minutes worth of work at the end of a session.
Yeah. But you can do a lot in 3 minutes. If you can, 10-second sprints, 10-second blitz, even 20 seconds off, you know what I mean? It's 6 rounds. It's quite a lot.
I hate you.
If you were to do 6 sets of squats, that's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do hate you.
Yeah, I mean, everyone generally, you know, I just
hate you. But that was going to bring me on to the next point. Like, what type of workout? So let's say you're going, because it's fat loss, you're going for fat loss. What would be the priority if you only had 30 minutes to train per day? Let's say you had 3 to 4 sessions a week, but what would be your priority in a session on a 30-minute window?
Why don't you go first on this one, Jack? I need some thinking time.
I would still get strength work in. And it'd probably just be a focus on one fundamental lift. So one big movement depending on their level. So deadlift, whatever that is, or just one big movement for them. Get them, have a period 20 minutes on that movement. So prep them for it, nail it, get the intensity super up there on that. So they build that, and then conditioning. Yeah.
And then condition. Would you do any assisted work for it, or would you just do like one good?
I mean, you could get the assistance work from the conditioning in a way.
But
that's the way I would focus. So I would have a focus still on the strength, and then a little bit of conditioning. So then, if you only got 30 minutes, you tick both boxes.
Yeah, true. George,
I would. Let's say if we had 4, I'd go maybe squat on the Monday. Give a rest, then upper body on the next training day, back to lower body, maybe the deadlift variation on the last day with a conditioning session in between. And like Jack said, I would do 2 exercises. I would do a squat paired with, and then as in on its own for between 15 and 20 minutes to a peak set. And then I might do a split squat or something like that, with little to no load, and just shorten the rest period.
Yeah,
you know, and you can even get
some volume in there then.
Yeah, that's right. So maybe even 2 sets of that. Doesn't have to be a great deal. 2.
No, I think people put too much emphasis on you need to do 3, you need to do 4. Sometimes I whip like little sneaky exercises. You know, stuff that I'm like, I like it. It doesn't have the most carryover in the world. But it's good to fit in there. You give it a cheeky 2-set wonder on there, and then you can carry on with the rest then.
Yeah, and the same with the glute bridges and stuff as a paired with a deadlift, and maybe a press up with a hand on the bench or hand on a bed if you're at home, press up to go with a bench press or something, you know. Although you wouldn't have a bench press at home and then a bed in the gym, would you?
You might.
Depends what type of gym you're running.
This is very different.
You literally have no idea. People are mad. Yeah. But I reckon I would go, personally, I would go all resistance, but a big circuit A1, A4. Yeah. A1, A4 covering, so like, you know what I mean? It could be something simple, like you're doing legs, or like I said, it could be quads and chest, or a push session, a pull session, or whatever. But I'll just cycle then that 4 exercises where I'm hitting upper lower, and that could be a squat focus at the start. But again, it's just in that type of workout, I could hit if it's 3 times 3 full body sessions in a half an hour. We had 10-minute window to warm up and get yourself prepped, and then you have 20 minutes then to just bang 4 exercises that don't fatigue each other if you can. You can go squat on the double bench row, on the hamstring curl, on the shoulder press. You know what I mean? Something like that, where you've just now not fatigued any other movement pattern, and then just run it, because then that means you're just getting a lot of your time. But I didn't think about that approach really as well, like you're saying, Jack, because your way you're efficiently still building the movement pattern. Do you know what I mean? You're not just being like, I've got 20 minutes left. Let's just throw myself around the gym like a madhead.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going in there and priming and being like, right, I got 20 minutes on a really good move. I'm going to focus on smashing that, and then after I can go wild. You can go battle ropes, prowlers, and hamstring curls if you wanted. Really, it's not going to make any difference, is it? But I didn't think about that.
On your point there, Si, I would adopt that approach if I had two half-an-hour sessions a week.
Yeah, so if you went so it'd be on the premise if you went like 3 half-hour sessions.
Yeah, so I might,
like Jack could do like a bench press session, and then he could do a pulling session somewhere, or a hamstring and then a quad and whatever, and have assisted upper bodies then, really.
Yeah, I would still do squat and the deadlift one separate day, and then like a upper body, like I said, a push pull. But I like the approach of, you could even do one day where you just do squat and row. You think about how tough that would be. 10 minutes and then squat, row, squat, row, squat, row, 30 seconds, squat, row, 30 seconds. 4 sets in, you're gonna have.
You'd be blowing. Even if you had really good rest on that, and just in the whole half hour. Aside from the warm up, the whole part of the half hour on 2 really good exercises with plenty of rest, you're going to be with 2 big exercises. You're going to be puffed out, like. I mean, I've never tried it, but has anybody ever tried or seen anybody try and do like Tabata training with a squat? I know, man.
You see it online and stuff, and like they do it with like cleans and stuff.
But can you imagine doing almost like an interval session where you do, let's say you squat for 15 seconds and then you stand 15 seconds with a bar on your back, and then you do that, you would be fried out of your head.
Like walk around like Bambi.
Yeah, you'd be dead. You'd just stand there with a bar on your back, you'd be absolutely dead. That's good. I'll just move on to the last question there before we go, just quickly. How would you use cardio? And by cardio, I mean all aspects of cardio, your NEAT and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so
help fat loss and program for it.
Shall I go first this time?
Go for it.
Like with everything, if I start with the low intensity, I like to look at what they've done. First, and then I try and add 2,000 steps. So let's say they've done 6,000. I maybe add 2,000 steps. If they're really trying to get some rapid weight loss, then I might add 5,000 steps to their daily count. Wherever they can get it. If they prefer to go, so like the calorie intake thing, if they prefer to go a little bit each day to top that up, and then a big amount of walking on the weekend or whatever it might be, or just general big amount of uptake all over, I don't really mind, whatever works in their lives. So that's kind of the 2 markers I have. Either 2,000 if you want to see some steady weight loss, 5,000 if you want to see a little bit more above their average, and that's an average over a week. With the cardio within the gym, I think I mentioned it before. I like the stuff with the prowlers and the carries and all that sort of thing. I do use some bike work, but obviously I don't just leave them for an hour.
That's not what I see you doing, right?
Yeah. Just don't tell anyone. But I like to, again, like all the programs, if we're gonna go into some high intensity stuff, I build it over the weeks and just hit maybe 1 week of high intensity. True high intensity, by the way, with a sufficient enough rest. With the high intensity interval training, again, that might be the 3-minute stuff at the end of a session. I don't even have to do that much of it. And I kind of, again, bring that in to a peak and then bring it back. But I probably include that each time. Pick something sensible, short amount of time, so it's not, I don't see their form massively deteriorate. And that's me.
How about you, Jack?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, for outside of the gym, the steps would have to be high. So like George said, you work with them on an individual basis to work out what they can actually get done. So there's no point in saying someone 20,000 steps when they're doing 2. So you'd work with them on that, and then that's their main low duration, long slow duration. And then if they're coming in 3 times a week, like I said earlier, then the conditioning would be what we do in the session.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't program anything specific. It would just be the neat work outside of that.
Yeah.
But then if, for example, like I said earlier, with the 5 times a week, we'd have a conditioning day where they do their aerobic stuff, but still have their neat to where I want it to be in terms of that. But then it's interesting. I was going to ask this question today in terms of what your guys' thoughts on fasted cardio, like in the mornings, because the research study-wise, there's nothing for it.
Absolutely.
But then if you listen to experts, and I say experts or people at the top of the game on podcasts, or you read what they put out there, if they always say, if I was given £1 million to get this actor to get absolutely shredded for this role, they would put it in.
Yeah.
Because in their experience, it works. So
bodybuilders been using it for time, but again, bodybuilders are all and use.
That's true, but there's obviously a reason they do it. But it's the same with, like, you could say, like, going to failure doesn't always produce the same results, but then loads of bodybuilders would be like, no, because obviously it's an individual basis. Yeah. So I was just wondering what your guys' thoughts. If you would use it, I mean,
I don't use it. And that's only because, like, research, we follow that all the time, so I go off what other people are researching and finding out. But even in personal circumstances there, I've just calorie controlled and kept the NEAT up and had great results. So I've never felt the need to actually have to do it. That's not to say that it doesn't work, because, like, again, if I, like, back in the day, I used to watch every bodybuilding video that ever was, and the same thing all the time. People are always doing an hour in the morning fasted cardio. But there is a possibility, maybe it is, you're low on fuel source by the time you get to the morning. There's more chance for you tapping into fat burning. You've got a high cortisol state at that
George,
time.
Are you climbing Mount?
I think he's got downstairs.
Picture right now.
I've got to pick my daughter up any minute. I just want to answer the question real quick as well.
But that's interesting. I don't know, but, like, I don't use it.
I was wondering if you know. I was just wondering if you were given, like, the 12-week period where you were given £1 million to get someone to do it, would you put it in?
My £1 million would be on making them do 20,000 steps a day for the whole time.
Yeah.
But
like, I guess you could include it.
Yeah,
so get them to do it. So then you're hitting both. So it's like, well, I've covered all bases, I guess.
Yeah, interesting. Gone ahead there, George.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. I've used it myself, purely because accidentally, because I got up in the morning, didn't eat breakfast, and then did my cardio first, and then did it. But I was on a calorie deficit anyway, so I don't know whether I don't know whether that's the reason, or whether it contributed. Would I use it for my clients? It really depends how they already are. If they're already not eating in the morning, then I would. But if they want to eat and they feel good better when they've eaten, then I probably wouldn't. I'd base it on how they feel energy wise, rather than what result I think it's going to get. But I think it worked for me. But like I said, I don't know whether it's because I was already in the deficit and accelerated.
It's hard to tell, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. You're always going to be, so it's hard to tell which.
You'd want two real groups of people, wouldn't you? There doing the same calories with the same body weight, with, you know what I mean?
That's the only difference.
That's the only difference, is the time of day when they do the cardio, before or after meals. That'd be interesting. I'm going to start reading that now.
Yeah.
I'm going to start doing it. But we'll call it a day on there, I reckon.
Yep. Cool. So next week, hopefully we'll have Sam on. And for everyone who's watching, I think Sam will do a bit of practical work. So get yourselves in, nice space, and join in with us if you can.
Get your clobber on.
Yeah, I will confirm with Sam. But he was happy to last time I spoke to him. But we had a few drinks by then, so we'll see. All right then, guys. So, Si, have you ended your core stuff now?
Yeah, only because of work now. I'm trying to. I probably will bring it back in once I know the schedule now, going in the work times, because there will be some free time to bash some core sessions in. But as for now, it's on the downturn because sessions are moving around too much.
Yeah, cool. Mine have still got one more week of the couch to gym, and then I'm going to reassess everything after that. So watch this space, guys. I'll come up with some updates as soon as I know. But also I'm going to be giving out those
as well.
Yeah, on the fitness. Oh yeah.
Yeah, your Instagram's going good though. Instagram's got stuff on there, like it.
Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you later.
See you later.
Cheerio.